Hello everyone, welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet to be able to be streamed through the cloud live on your Nintendo Switch. I'm Will, and joining me this week, Brandon.
I'm Resident Evil 7.
Ills.
I'm Resident Evil Village 8, or however you say it.
And Saf.
Resident Evil 6. Represent.
There are so many actual cloud games.
I picked one. One that was actually a cloud game.
RE6 is just, they got that native, baby. We can run this 360 game, no fear.
I just want to be a village.
That's fine. Village, Resident Evil. I mean, that game's not running on unless it's on a cloud version. So
Probably.
at least there's that. That is.
At least we didn't give anything away. You know, now we'll be able to reveal what was, the new games that can run on cloud. Later
Oh, true. We're being very smart about this, actually.
Yep. It was.
So hello.
We didn't get to joke. Hello there.
How's the week?
Fine. It was nice. Nice for Nintendo Direct. Last Nintendo Direct, but it was nice.
It is.
Partner direct.
Yeah, fair enough. Got to get that.
You know, we could be getting a general. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
I would also say maybe there might be the Game Awards. Nintendo likes to announce stuff there, so don't give up on Nintendo news for the rest of the year yet.
Yeah, the Game Awards is supposed to be happening remotely, but we'll see how that looks, because every year I'm all raised ever since for 10 years of watching the Spike VGAs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has just instilled in me such a deep sense of dread watching any of these. Yeah.
Although
but so far those have been
better
fine.
since the Spike days, surely.
Oh, by a huge margin.
By a huge
yeah.
margin for sure.
Like, the celebrity appearances are only, like, kind of bad now. There's some that are funny. Whereas, like, they're like, let's put Samuel L. Jackson in all of the Game of the Year nominees. And you're like...
Oh, God. Sorry.
He's in Minecraft, and the guy does the Gangnam Style dance to make him less sad. It's pretty exciting stuff.
What?
I remember the joke that they made at one Spike Game Awards thing, where it's like they had a guy dressed up as a soldier, willing to teabag anyone who like speaks too much or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just randomly there in the background, just as part of a joke, and it was just super unfunny.
Yeah, among other things, they presented the awards on naked ladies. Just the games were painted on the naked ladies' bodies, and the game developers had to come up on stage and be like, "I accept this award." Like, do I grab the woman?
Oh no!
So things have improved a lot. A lot of that was clearly not Keely's idea. That was clearly Spike. But anyways, video games. Before the Game Awards happen, there's still video games coming out. There's still video games that are being announced through Nintendo Direct Minis. Mm-hmm. So why don't we get to those? They open up with an update on Bravely Default 2. Mostly, they're going over sort of the basics of Bravely, right? This is default changing. This is job changing, excuse me. This is the sort of battle system. And then at the end, they dropped a little, hey, 2021. February 26th, 2021, to be more specific. Mm-hmm. And we're also made a very clear point of, hey, we got your feedback on the demo. Which is good. Did anyone play the Bravely demo?
No.
Yeah.
What did you think of it, Saf?
It's kind of boring. It was just...
Mm-hmm.
It was just boring. Like, there was nothing noteworthy about it. It was just kind of basic Bravely Default's combat, and the map itself was just kind of just too big with no like overall map on it. Like, if you get what I'm saying, like it was there was only just that mini map, and it was hard to navigate through unless you actually had a good idea of where the landscapes were, and it was just a bit of a mess.
So did that demo give you like a negative impression of the game so far, or do you think it was just like a shitty demo?
I think it was just I still have faith. I'm going to blame it as a shitty demo itself. And maybe they've learned a few things. Maybe they've actually made some relevant changes. Like, maybe they've given us access to a fucking map so that we can navigate the fucking area better. Who knows?
Yeah, because impressions were overall, I would say, not super positive on it, right? I think that's all people complained about was just the like difficulty curve was very strange, right?
Oh yeah.
A little grindier than people would like. And those are things that could be hammered out. You know, it's been a full year since that first was shown off, so and I mean, Octopath had a very similar demo and then improvements, right? So hopefully that helps it. After that, they had Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town. I'm pointing at myself because this is a bait game for me.
It's a farming game.
It is a farming game. I feel like we've said it before, but if you don't know Story of Seasons, that's the actual Harvest Moon developers. They left from Natsume and did not have the rights to the name, but they did have the rights to keep making farming games. And I don't know if they're taking notes from Animal Crossing, taking notes from Stardew, from wherever else, but sort of the gimmick of this game is, hey, you go back and everything is just become forest again, basically, right? And you have
not
to
like every Harvest Moon game.
No, because the thing that they specifically are pointing out is when you go to Harvest Moon, like the farm is run down, but like there's clearly this is the field, right? This is where the ranch is. This is where this thing is, right? Whereas their sort of pitch with this one is, hey, you get to determine where the field is. You get to determine what the ranch is. If you want to do only field, you could do that. You could do only ranching. You could do other buildings throughout, right? So a little bit more player choice, right? Which, like I said, is Stardew had more of that than most games do, and Animal Crossing, obviously, that was sort of the whole pitch, right? Was Deserted Island. So
there's been a real resurgence of farming games.
There is.
The last couple of years.
I think people just want escapism. People just want to be in a nice town where they don't feel like the world's on fire. But
yeah, same.
Funny. I'm not funny, but they keep doing this now, where they finally in the last Story of Seasons game let you get gay married. But in Japan, where gay marriage is now legal, it is a friendship promise, and that continues to be the thing in this game. And you're like, oh, well, cool. That was just a thing. But I know. Just I was like, oh,
fucking Japan, cancel it.
Yeah,
cancel the country.
You should probably legalize gay marriage, Japan.
Friendship promise.
Wow, what a controversial stance. After that was Surviving the Aftermath. Which is isometric the word, I guess? Probably isometric, right?
It looked like an RTS.
The RTS, where you're sort of managing an apocalypse, right? Sort of wastelandy. Though there is also parts where there's like a Civ type map that you can manage your resources with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming spring 2021. Were there any larger thoughts on it?
I wasn't sure when I first started seeing the trailer what I was seeing, and I was like, is this Disco Elysium? Because I don't really know anything about that game other than people were like jizzing themselves over it last year.
Yeah.
Oh
and I was like, oh, is this that? Because from the couple screenshots I thought maybe it was. So
yeah.
Then I was like, oh, no, it's not. This is something else.
Though Disco is supposed to be coming first to Switch, so it probably will show up in one of these eventually. Mm-hmm. Or maybe in Indies. I don't know. Either way, next up there's Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is back. So this is obviously downgraded visually from the other versions of the game. Has to be, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the downgrade? Is it like a deal breaker for you, or is it sort of like, oh, that seems like a fair, like what they could do on Switch type of deal?
I mean, it looks fine, I guess. It just looks really bland. I don't know if that's an issue with the game itself or just this version of the game.
Yeah.
I think it's both.
Yeah. It does look, it somehow, I think, because the main thing they changed is the lighting, right? There's just a lot less bloom on everything, and so it looks more Breath of the Wildy as a result of that, right? Like, so it's ironic that the Switch version looks the closest to the game that is clearly inspired by.
I thought the funniest thing about it, the trailer, was them being like, and you can use 3 weapons, and I was like, fucking 3?
That's oh boy. Yeah. So that was a weird one. There was, of course, the return of the king, our favorite game announcement of the year, Bakugan Champions of Vestoria, everyone.
Oh my god.
Oh, heck.
God.
Man, this game puts Game Freak to shame, because you see this game looks so bad.
I'm just kidding. It looks the same in terms of graphics as Pokemon.
I would say it's being mean to Pokemon.
I guess.
The part they showed off, it's an RPG, but I don't know what you're doing. So,
like, I mean, what the fuck's I mean, I know what a Bakugan is in a way, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like a circle that you throw and a little.
You shoot them, yeah.
Which it sounds exactly like Pokemon, but these are like, don't they like roll out into a monster?
Yeah, like the real life gimmick is you have a little like shooter. You stick the ball in the shooter, and the rest of it goes and it pushes it out, right?
Yeah, there's like a monster. Like the ball itself is unfurls, the monster, and it kind of like pops out.
Yeah.
As part of the ball, and then you like fold it up and collapse it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care about this.
Apparently,
really.
kids love it. So,
do kids still love Bakugan? Is that a thing that kids still love? Because I feel like they don't.
It's hard to say considering we're not kids.
That's true.
But I do think. I think that these things sort of have a cycles of resurgence, right? Like I can say that like there was a couple of years back where like Beyblade had like a little resurgence among the kids, right?
Oh
God bless.
God, yeah.
So I imagine Bakugan's probably at some point going to get that upswing if it's not currently getting it. After that, there was Griftlands Nintendo Switch Edition, which is, if you haven't seen Griftlands, is it's a card-based battler, right?
Uh-huh.
But the main thing that really is with a mix of a lot of dialogue choices in the game, but a really strong art style. Sort of everything is they have full like portraits of all the people that you're fighting and I think that they look very nice. So
yeah, it looks fantastic. I actually want to buy it. I'm pretty sure it's out. It's on EGS, right?
Yes, it's been out on PC for the better part of a year now, I think so.
Yeah. So I might get it for Switch.
Yep, which is coming in summer 2021, I think was when they said.
Slay the Spire made me want to play card games again, so here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Then there was Tropico 6, which... Tropico is a series I've never touched.
Yeah, same.
But cool.
I just know it's got that the dude smoking the cigar on it.
Yeah. Generic Latin American dictator.
Yeah. Dictator man.
Yeah. Then there is Hitman 3 is coming to Nintendo Switch through the power of the cloud.
Oh my god.
Stadia, move aside.
Stadia, tears pouring down your cheek. So this is the return of that, as Brandon mentioned at the start. We've had games like RE7 test out the waters of cloud Switch games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not part of a service, right? It's not like Stadia, not like
Game Pass.
Game Pass or Luna. Was that the Amazon one? Anyways.
Yeah.
These vary a lot more depending on the game, right? Because it's depending on how what servers I think the company itself is providing for this.
Mm-hmm.
Though I'm sure they're utilizing someone else's tech proprietarily, but whatever. So we'll see when Hitman 3 comes out, how that goes on Switch, right? But one you can test right now is Control, which Shadow drops the cloud version of Control.
Isn't it the Ultimate Edition of it, too?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Both the expansions on it, yeah.
Yeah. That's really
which
cool.
is impossible to offer to next-gen people that already bought the game.
That's an interesting one. Because, Control was, incredibly visually impressive. Like, it had a lot going on visually. And it had, a lot of ray tracing, etc. So, seeing that, or seeing how that works out on cloud, seems like a very, very interesting test.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen much discussion about specifically, there hasn't been a Digital Foundry study, right? But impressions are out because it's out now. And they've seemingly been overwhelmingly positive from what I've seen. People saying, I played this on the base like console for like an Xbox One, and I'm playing it on Switch, and the Switch version looks just as good, right? Like, and it runs way better, right? Because Control had very spotty frame rates for base consoles at launch. So
yeah, this version
seemingly it's a good version.
Yeah, because this version has like two options. You can play at 60 FPS with like graphics settings turned down, or you can just play at 30 FPS with like full ray tracing and shit like that turned all the way up, which is kind of cool. And you get you get to test it. Like you have a 5-minute like demo where you can test it, see if you can actually play it on the cloud before you can buy it, which is
that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ran into like a couple issues when I played this game, and like it wouldn't load in correctly. Like some spots would just be black for a while until all the textures loaded in. So I wonder if that would replicate on the cloud version. Hopefully not.
You've already played Control?
Yeah, like May.
Fuck.
Yeah. I've also played Control, and it is push. You can feel it push. It's a game that they said were like, it was slightly lower budget than the previous games they had made, right? But also you could feel that, right? Like there was rough edges to it for sure on like the back end, like performance side of things. That hopefully, like you said, in the cloud version are fixed and have been ironed out in the the months since we played it. But still cool. And I think that this is if this works, is gonna become a more and more common thing, like cloud versions of Switch of next gen games on Switch as time goes on.
How much is Control? Is it $60?
No,
I don't know. I haven't checked.
You have to get like an access pass of like $39 or $39.99, and then you can just play it.
Is that on a time limit like the RE7 cloud version? Do you know?
I did not see that. Like, it didn't say much on time limit.
There was a time limit?
RE7, you rented the game.
What?
So, like, you bought it for a 3-month period of time.
What the fuck?
Which I imagine is probably so they don't have to keep the servers up forever, right? Like, the minute that people are stopped renewing, they can shut it down, but it's still dumb.
Why aren't you paying rental prices then?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the RE1 was. So that one was cheaper. Whereas, I don't know about Control, right? If it's $40 for the access, I don't know if that's time limited or not.
That's like a fucking ripoff.
Yeah.
But either way, that is, like I said, we'll see it as it continues on. And I think that it's a smart idea because Switch is a hugely successful system, right? And I don't think that third parties just want to give up having those Switch versions if need be. And if you're already making cloud versions for Stadia or for xCloud or for whatever else, obviously, why not try it there too?
Yeah. See how that works out.
Then we finally did it. After months of looking at Suda51's body over it, getting it blurred, everything else. No more Heroes 3. We got to see it. And you'll never guess what it looks like.
No more heroes.
Wow. What a mystery. Yeah, I've seen some people do deep dives on on the UI and stuff, right? But you are Travis. It's sort of what we expected, right? They confirmed you're fighting now a galactic group of supervillains, and those were the ones from the Game Awards trailer last year, right? They got introduced.
Good trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Very good trailer, yeah. 100%.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, like, the fact that they're fucking space aliens, you expect them to up the ante of how crazy these fights get, or how crazy these games get.
Yeah, I mean, it's a series that is contingent on escalation, right?
Yeah.
So how will they successfully do it? It'll be interesting to see, right? Because I know there are sort of split opinions on one or two within the fan base, right? But you can form your own opinion because both of them are now currently available for the Nintendo Switch. Both got shadow dropped the same day.
Hey, that's
nice.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's really great. That's great.
Yeah.
It's a good move from them.
Yeah, especially because they were very quietly at the bottom were like, this is not hitting 2020. As Travis himself said, 2020, good luck.
Gives you time though. Gives you a little bit of something to do, while you wait for the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And $20, so you can sort of, if this isn't reinventing the wheel, you can probably get a good taste of whether or not you're in for it, Next up, there was Part-Time UFO, which is a game that came out back in 2018, I think, by HAL Laboratories, self-published by HAL Laboratories, because technically they're not owned by Nintendo, that was published on mobile phones and is now available on the Nintendo Switch.
It is published by Nintendo on the Switch.
On the Switch, correct. Yeah. But not on mobile.
Not the mobile version.
Yeah. No. And sort of the whole thing is you are a UFO catcher, right? Like those crane games, right? That's what they're called in Japan, is UFO catchers. And the whole thing is you're picking up things, you're moving them across, you're dropping them down. I think Moose played this, and Moose had positive things to say about it. Which also, when you look at it, it is a HAL game, and they know how to make things very cute. It's a very cute video game.
True.
And is also shadow dropped. So, then the final thing that they had was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. It got sort of a summation of all the trailers that have been coming out over the last couple of weeks. They sort of all suck them all together, right? Mm-hmm. A few new things. They showed a part where you appear to be controlling the divine beasts, along with other things, which is both cool and makes sense.
Yep.
And also released a demo the day of that gives you the first 2 missions of the game and a couple of side missions you can do.
Yeah.
Which the save transfer will transfer saves when the game comes out on November 20th, 2020.
I assume you've played them already, Will.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I like Warriors games. I like Hyrule Warriors. Performance is a little spotty, but I got used to it. It's about a Warriors game level of that, I would say.
Also, there's a lot... Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was going to just continue. It's like there's a lot more in terms of move sets and what you do in this game compared to the previous Hyrule Warriors game. In terms of you get different abilities now. You have a special attack alongside your meter. No, not a unique attack alongside your special attack and regular attacks, which is fucking good.
And some of those spiral out from there, right? So, for example, every character has the runes, right? Which is magnesis, stasis, cryosis, and what's the last one?
The bomb.
Bomb. The only one is the assist, so I didn't remember it.
Bomb assist.
Yeah.
Explosives.
And every character has those, but they're all different for each character. Right? Link's is very much like the normal version of them, right? So Link throws a bomb, right? He freezes someone. He picks up an object with magnesis, right? Whereas Impa, with the ice one, she gets on top of the ice block and rides it around, right? And Zelda, because Zelda is supposed to have the best mastery of them, all of hers are way stronger, right? But her base moveset's a little bit weaker. It's sort of the way that it balances.
Typical Link being a basic bitch.
He is. They only have had the single hand sword, right? Because he's going to have a different moveset for all the weapon types. But his moveset for this game is basically straight up just lifted from Hyrule Warriors. But there's a couple of parts where he hang glides,
Yeah.
But anyways, that is all to say. It's not going to probably change your mind if you're hate Warriors games, right? But I think it's a good version of it, and I think it's worth talking about. We're going to get into a little bit of spoilers. All right.
Yeah.
Please be all right. Okay. We're gonna keep it to a minimum. So the very first thing you see in the game, the very first thing, is the little egg that's been in the trailers, right? The little guardian.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing he does is he opens a portal and goes back in time.
I hate that. I fucking hate that. I obviously we need to wait and see, and maybe they actually do a good job of it. But I don't want time travel. I just want to witness what happened. I don't want to see a version of what happens.
Wow, no wonder you hate Skyward Sword.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, it's they explicitly said the game takes place in the canon, so I can't imagine it's going to end at a different place than the base game, unless they're like it's canon in an alternate timeline, because Zelda loves to branch off timelines, which would be frankly hilarious, because they made Breath of the Wild specifically to be able to ignore that. You know, they put elements from every timeline, they put it so far in the future that it doesn't matter, because they're all legends at that point, right? Who just pick and choose whichever one you want, basically. I think it's Wind Waker, by the way. But then immediately the first spin-off, if they go back down this rabbit hole, I will laugh a lot.
We need a new Hyrule Historia.
They already did Creating a Champion, and that book's huge. It's very big. But yeah, I guess would you like to know, through data mines, we believe we found the base roster for the game. I won't tell you who they are, but do you want to take a guess as to how many characters?
57.
No.
We're going for Hyrule Warriors Ultimate over here. Everyone is here.
I know who it is, but I didn't count how many there were.
There's 15, which there was 14 in the base game for Hyrule Warriors. So about the same amount, which is fine. Hyrule Warriors obviously expanded a bunch through DLC. I don't know if we're going to be getting multiple season passes of this game. Maybe.
Is there Linkle?
No Linkle.
Oh, then what's the point?
Yeah, no Linkle.
Thank you for saying what's been on my mind since day one.
That'll have to be for the Switch 2 version when they port it.
There's one feature that I don't think was talked much about, and I kind of hope they do expand it in the main game. But you can change Link's clothes.
Yeah.
In the demo, and I hope they expand it to like other characters as well.
All we know for sure is Link. I would mostly just expect Link, and it's primarily his outfits from Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But yeah, I if it would be like the Hyrule Warriors as the comparison point, right? There were certain characters that had full on alts, right? But most characters just had color palette swaps, right? So I imagine it would probably be closer to that than to full on costume changes.
Shame.
Like maybe Zelda in the dress, right? Maybe instead of in her like normal, explorer gear, stuff like that. But anyways, so there it was. That was the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, the last one for the year. They didn't say the last one ever. It could come back. But overall, review our feelings on them.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Initially, they were largely hated.
Yeah.
I don't hate review. I don't hate like these shows ever. Nah. Like, what's the point?
You have to save the hatred for the more important things in life.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're in election season. Yeah. So I think that you just got to have one big game. Right, like that's the problem. Is like for a lot of these, if you don't have the one big game there, it's sort of like, why? Okay, what else is going on? But I think they figured that out themselves. So,
well, the first one had SMT5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was really, really good.
It was really, really good. But SMT was, I would say, a very niche game, right? Like,
yeah.
I thought it was very good.
Sure, yeah. 100. I mean, I enjoyed it too, but it's one of those things. Also, it had to be the first direct. After a year of no directs, you know?
Yeah.
And even if they had the biggest barn burner in history, it wouldn't have been well received, I think. Because expectations were so high. Another thing that has high expectations, perhaps too high, is Cyberpunk 2077. A game that earlier this week we were guaranteed is still coming out in November, and is now coming out in December.
We were guaranteed the day before they delayed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is proof that the Twitter people do not have the inner workings of the company given to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely not.
Wait, who guaranteed us?
It was the Cyberpunk Twitter. Someone replied, like, hey, I'm about to lock in my pre-order, but you have to guarantee me it's going to be November, all right? And
so they wanted to take a day off from work. They were like, before I request this day off, can you guys guarantee me it's coming out on November 19th? And they're like, absolutely. And then the next day they announced the delay.
Yeah. Which is frankly very funny. Since it's funny, they specifically guarantee that person they'll just be giving the game for free as an apology.
Oh, did they say that?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
good for
dumb.
that person.
That's dumb.
Um,
That.
but this sort of has sort of kicked off a conversation because we sort of the dance around. We haven't talked about it a lot because it's been sort of piecemeal, but sort of I think this is brought all together, which was CD Projekt Red. The conditions for crunch have not been good on Cyberpunk. They specifically last year were like, we're not going to do crunch. We have it all planned out. We're going to be fine. And since then, the game has been delayed 3 times. And with that has come more crunch, right? Which we talked a lot about a couple of years ago, back in 2018, but is still a constant presence, right, in a lot of game development.
Wait, they delayed 3 times and they're still having to do crunch?
Yeah. I mean, the delays seemingly have made the crunch worse, right? Which is sort of the thing that like Schreier and a bunch of people warned every time delays would be announced. People say, well, at least there's not going to be crunch. And Schreier was oftentimes like, no, typically a delay is paired with extended crunch periods, right? Because it means
why?
Because the game is in a state where you almost never delay a game if it's behind schedule, right? Or if it's on schedule, right? So typically the game is further behind the period that they're moving it forward, right? Like Cyberpunk might need 3 more months, right? But they can only delay it a month. So they're going to need 3 times the amount of work out of you to make that up, you know? And yeah, I mean, a lot of that's based off like fiscal calendars and whatever else, right? But sort of one of the problems I would say with it is that they've been getting asked about this, right? Because people have been coming out through reporting by Schreier over at Bloomberg, and when asked about it, the heads of CD Projekt Red basically said it's not that bad, actually, we're fine, right? Which is sort of, I would say, not the flippant tone you want to take for a thing that like some people were describing, 100-hour work weeks, on average.
Yeah, why would you trust the heads? Like, why would they say it's bad?
Yeah. And even if they don't have to say, you could even say, hey, like we're trying to manage it the best we can and we want to create a good condition, right? But he was straight up just like, we don't think it's a problem. And you're like, do you think that crunch isn't a problem? Because that's even bigger,
Yeah, because that's the thing, because there's like multiple people who are speaking out, like anonymously, I think, Yeah. And it's like, well, why would you even bother? Yeah. Why would you bother even trying to say that?
Yeah. And, which is also funny because it was sort of back in like January, the CEO said, we think we're going to get it on time, but there's going to be a period of crunch. Like they did like sort of like say that, which already went against what they were saying, but they were implying that it would be a 2-week period, whereas seemingly they're in their 2nd or 3rd month of it already. And it's coming out in December. So you could do the math there, right? So that's upsetting, right?
When was this game initially supposed to come out? Like in April?
Yeah.
April 16th, yeah. And then it got delayed to September 17th, then November 19th, and now December 10th.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I think the last game to get pushed this far back, what was it? I think it's like, I forget what it was. Anyways, it hasn't happened in a while. Oh, Uncharted 4 was the last game to get delayed 4 times in a row, which we now know Uncharted 4's development was not fun at all to be working on. So I imagine it's a very similar situation right now for Cyberpunk, right? And once again, it's this thing of these prestigious developers in particular, right? At Naughty Dog, at Rockstar, at CD Projekt Red, that sort of are working. The thought is like working for the company is enough of a prestige position that you should be willing to do things that like normally you may not like to do.
Nah, fuck that.
And I mean, yeah, and the answer is like fuck that, right? But like that's sort of the implicit thing that they leverage on their employees a lot of the time. And so part of that is it's nice when people come out like this because it takes away some of that prestige. Like you can still say that they make good games, but you can also understand that there's the reputation of if they're not a good place to work, that will cause a talent drain. That if you want to keep making these prestigious things that get rave reviews and win Game of the Year awards, you're going to have some of the best people in the industry. And if people are choosing to leave en masse, you're not going to be able to hire those people. Yeah. So I think that's one of the ways that like people talking about it is nice and it helps. So there it is.
Was crunch I feel like, now crunch is getting talked about, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you think, how long has it been a problem in the industry?
Mm-hmm.
Like, has it always been prevalent? Because I feel like it probably has.
Yes.
And like, and I've heard stories, right, before, about, like, oh, well, some license here. I worked on this X license game.
Mm-hmm.
We were told you have to get it out in 2 weeks. We didn't sleep for 2 weeks. Like, and the game kind of sucks, but we were told we had to make it, and we worked our asses off, but we didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been a thing for a long time, but finally.
Because
I mean, with the internet and like social media, like people get more cognizant of these, problems that happen in workplaces, and we become smarter as a society, hopefully. And
I think it's
we try to address these problems on a universal level.
Yeah, I think it's like also the fact that we've all grown up as well a little bit. Because like at first, like they've talked about like offices having like shower facilities, etc., like people having places to sleep in the offices for working late and stuff. And like when I was younger, I was like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. They have like these hygiene facilities or whatever. But as you grow older, and as you like get more mature and more understanding,
the implication of the hygiene facility is you're going to be
it's a prison.
Yeah, basically, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
So.
I mean it's funny because it's like this is sort of a slight tangent, right? But there was a anime that I watched like 5 episodes of. I did not like it. It's full of anime girls, but it was originally, well, which isn't a problem, anime girls, whatever. But it was called like New Game. But it was an anime about game development, right?
Right.
It wasn't really about game development, right? There was not actually very much conversation about it, but that's where I got my foot in the door. But the one thing they did acknowledge was like, hey, the programmer is going to be sleeping in the office for the next 2 weeks, right? But they sort of, they position it as sort of like this, like almost admirable thing, right? Of like, look, like she's willing to like get all this work done. She's a machine, right? The rest of the team's so thankful to her. And I feel like that mentality is the problem,
Yeah, that mentality's been around for like ever in like other, industries, of course.
Yeah.
So we've always had to fight against that, or should always fight against that.
Yeah, because if Miyamoto's talked before in interviews, right, about how back when they would make Mario World or whatever else, right, that they would work until 2 a.m., right, but because it was a 5-person team, it was just sort of everyone being like, do you want to keep working? Yeah, okay, we'll keep working, right, because they were like making things that they enjoyed, right. But he's like, I miss those days, right, but I understand that you can't do that with a 200-person team, right? When these teams are so big, you can't just look at everyone and say, are you all agreeing? Because that number's too big for anyone to actually feel like they could speak up,
Yeah. You no longer have like free will at that point. You just kind of have to go along.
Yeah.
Them up, yeah.
So that was the thing that, felt was worth mentioning. We'll see if conditions improve, right? They haven't made many motions to make us believe that they will, but here's hoping. And then besides all that, was there any other news that you guys saw this week that you want to bring up?
No.
Guess not. That's okay.
I'm trying to think. I mean, no.
I mean, Retro's opened up a new studio, but that's nothing.
Yeah. They are doing that.
But what can we say about that, to be honest with you?
Yeah. I guess on a similar note, the creative head of Halo Infinite left to the studio this week.
Saw that, yeah.
Which who knows what implications that has. Maybe we should have thought Halo Infinite might be the later half of 2021 rather than the earlier half. Because they had a lot of different creative people join and then leave and then join throughout that entire development process. So hopefully at the end of the day it can come out on something that's okay.
Oh my god. I don't even know what to expect anymore. Also, I guess the creative head at what's that Rare game?
Sea of Thieves?
No, the one they're making right now.
Everwild.
Everwild. I guess the creative lead of that game left as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means for that game.
It's been noted before that sometimes people tend to leave when next gen sort of starts coming around, right? Because it's sort of just you know, if you want to leave and start doing a whole new project that's entirely for next gen, you sort of do it around then, right? So maybe it's partially that. Apparently the Halo one was specifically connected to reception to that gameplay demo from the showcase back in June, right? Where apparently he was getting a lot of pressure from people after it sort of didn't light the world on fire. And who knows?
Pressure from who?
Seemingly, well, the public reception was largely memes, right, about how the Brute looked. And that sort of, and Xbox sort of leaned into it and tried to make jokes about it, but internally I think there was sort of this thing of like, hey, this is not showing well. People were not did not have positive impressions. We need to work on this, right?
I thought the gameplay looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I was totally fine with it, right? But I would say clearly people, I guess, within Microsoft saw issue with it, and maybe we're trying to intervene more. I don't know on the specifics of that, but seemingly from reporting that may have been connected to him leaving. So hopefully it wasn't forced out.
Ruined it.
Yeah. But either way, so there's that. That's the news. We start out with a lot of what fun little wistful things. Then we just end it with a bunch of sadness. Hopefully we can bring it back up on the list.
The list.
Follow along in the paste bin below as every week we add a game to an ever-growing list of over 222 video games. Last week we added Runbow, specifically the not Switch version, because that's worse. And it got to 171 on the list. That was brought by Ills, right?
Correct.
All right, I wasn't there, so I had to check and make sure. This week,
you didn't miss much.
Well, Saf, what are you bringing?
It is time, boys. It is time to bring in Final Fantasy 15.
Okay. All right.
Let's talk about this shit.
Taking a nap.
Take a nap.
Oh, God.
Here we go. I'm going to go grab a bottle of water. And while I do that, Saf, tell us what Final Fantasy 15 is.
Final Fantasy 15 is a role-playing game and action RPG that was announced originally in 2006 as a spin-off of Final Fantasy 13.
Versus 13.
Versus 13. Yeah, sorry. Versus 13. God knows what happened with development. It took forever.
Well, I got stuck in development hell forever.
Yeah.
Fuck, what's the guy's name?
Nomura?
Tetsuya Nomura.
Nomura. There you go. Nomura got pulled off the project. I think Tabata had to finish it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hajime Tabata had to finish it. And it started off as originally supposed to be for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and it ended up on the PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Xbox One. Fuck. Consoles. And that game became like a huge project with fucking anime, with fucking mobile games, with a fucking movie. For fuck's
I'm rolling
sake.
my eyes.
Yeah, and they even, when you bought the original game, I think there was a pre-order bonus for King's Royal, I think it's a beat 'em up game.
Yeah, I played that. Yeah,
yeah,
it's actually still free on the PlayStation Store.
Oh, that's fun.
Shit.
Yeah.
I did not have that much fun with it. I kind of got bored of it in 2 hours, and I was like, you know what?
It's pretty cool because Ultros is the last boss from Final Fantasy 6. So nice to see him.
We do love Ultros.
We do.
I should check that out. But this game came out, and it wasn't the best. To put it lightly,
I would say it's nearly the worst.
Nearly the worst. Yeah, I could say that.
I don't think it's nearly the worst, but
it's very close.
And I'm saying based on all the Final Fantasy games, the mainline ones.
Okay,
yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying on the global scale of things,
not counting X2.
Yeah.
Do we?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So FF15 is about a boy and his bros going on a road trip.
On a road trip.
Yeah.
Yep.
On
do you
a
want
really shitty road trip. He's going off to marry some girl he met once or before, I think. A princess of another land who he thinks he's in love with, I guess. I don't know. His whole relationship with her is basically by mail, or I don't know, with a courier.
Yeah, with a dog courier,
there's some weird shit going on that her kingdom got taken over by another kingdom, and who cares, because none of that shit is ever explained in the story.
Nope.
Yeah, it's a tale of two stories, right? Like there's one of like Noctis and the Bros, right? And Noctis is this coming of age prince, right? And it essentially his three retainers are the ones that are following him around, right? And it's sort of supposed to be, there's an element of him like, very early on in the game, spoiler alert, his dad is killed, their kingdom's taken over, right? And so, suddenly he's having to sort of grow into this role way faster than he thought he would.
And by the way, none of that is shown in the game.
Sure. Yeah, it is, I'm of two minds. Because the original version, they didn't have, because there was a movie, Kingsglaive, which shows the dad dying, right?
Yeah.
Horrible. It's so fucking bad that that's not part of the actual game.
Yeah, and it's like the moment where you wake up from your hotel and someone's just reading the newspaper and they're like, dude, look at this, and they show it to him, and Noctis is like in disbelief, right? And you drive up, and so there's like a 15-minute segment where like you're driving and like it's rainy, but then like slowly the airships come in, and then finally you get there and you just see devastation, right? Yeah. And I thought that would actually be a cool moment, right? Like you find out when Noctis finds out this slow sense of like dread, right? But because in the day one patch, they stick in footage from Kingsglaive.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's like, well, neither of this works. Because this is contextless nonsense of the Kingsglaive stuff. Because she doesn't, like, say anything. You see him fighting. And then it makes that whole 15 minutes suddenly be just a waste of time. Because what happened.
There's no context for anything that happens in that movie sequence. Like, you have no fucking idea why they're being attacked, what the whole dynamic is there.
Yeah.
Like, you have no attachment to these characters at all. Like, why? Why even include this? I don't get it.
And, like, obviously there probably has to be a save the world narrative at some point in the Final Fantasy game, right? But the strongest parts of the game were Noctis and the Bros, and like they're just the things that happen to them largely, right? Because they're the ones that you spend time with, right?
Yes and no. I mean, the camp segments, those are potentially good. They're largely missable. So if you miss them, because I missed most of them, then you don't get them. But other than that, like their backstories or their personal journeys, you get very little of that shit.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that, it's what's weird. Because like we rank the best version of games on the list, right? Which is the Royal Edition, right? Which is a very different game than the launch game, right? Like they added in party swapping. Like you can play as other characters, right? Which was then tied to their episodes, which was essentially the place where you got a lot of their backstory, right? Like there was a part in the game where like Gladio leaves for a while, and that's just what he was doing, right?
Yeah, all your retainers leave for one, like each one individually leaves for a certain portion of the game.
Yeah.
And then in the DLC, you get the fucking, their little side quest of, show you what they did, which, roll my fucking eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't hate I played Prompto, which was like it had like stealth elements to it, and I played
and, like,
Gladio
elements.
Yeah, sure.
Gladio was the worst one.
Oh god,
okay.
It was awful. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I liked Prompto more like Gladio's, right? But I didn't hate either of them. Like they were sort of like, I thought Prompto was pretty neat. But
I mean, they're decent segments. I just wish they were integrated into the game.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And also, you get things
so
from
hard.
those DLCs. Yeah, you get things from those DLCs, but you played the DLCs after you beat the game, most likely. There's no reason to have Gladio's secret weapon here, and okay, why do I care?
Yeah, I think Royal Edition is an appreciably better game than the base edition, but also I don't know how I feel about that. It's weird that they released a Final Fantasy that feels like it was in early access, because I do think the combat is we haven't really touched on, right?
There's a lot to go. There's a lot.
So the combat, you're swapping weapon types. That's the whole thing that Noctis has available to him, right? And the other characters have their own systems afterwards. But for him, which is in that base game, he's the one you have to play as. they made the strange decision to make it where you don't have to press X to attack, you can just hold X. Which I think removes feedback in a way that's very strange. Like, a fundamental element of a video game is you should be pressing a button for a thing to be happening, right? Like, because that's how feedback works. But instead, like, you get these gifts that, like, are very impressive, right? And, like, there are moments where you can feel very cool because you're warping around and you're, like, swapping mid-combo and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's a half step because that very fundamental element of an action game, they don't incorporate into the combat.
Well, it barely feels like you're doing anything. Like, the dodge, like, you can manually dodge, but for the most part, you just hold a button to kind of just, like, dodge everything that's coming at you. Or when you want to attack, you just hold a button. And that we're not even talking about the magic system, which is fucking garbage, and the healing system, which essentially makes the game challengeless. Like, you cannot lose.
Yeah.
I was about to say that, like, a lot of the game, like, you didn't really need to put in much thought or effort in it. Like, you can face up enemies, like, that are, like, way higher levels than you. Like, when there's this point in the game where it's like you can't travel at night because it's super scary and the enemies are dangerous and they'll fuck your day up. But I was never scared because they're nothing. Like, because it's so easy to just beat them. All you have to do is warp around, and if you get hurt, just heal up and then just murk them. And it's never really a threat, and you never really feel challenged by the game itself.
Yeah, because after you lose your max HP and, like, your whatever the minimum HP goes all the way down, they still give you, like, another, like, moment where you can heal yourself up again. And okay, like, if you have any healing item, you're alive again, and that's it. Like, you just keep on going. Like, I beat a level 99 monster, like, without even trying. I was like level 50. Like, okay, I'm just gonna, keep going.
Yeah.
Because I have 99 potions because they cost like $10.
Yeah, I did a very similar thing with, like, there's, like, a mine you can go to early on that you're supposed to, like, see the guy and then run away, but I was like, I'm just gonna stand here and shoot him with my gun because he can't reach me, right? Which is, like, there's partially that's me gimping and whatever. But, yeah, I think that, like, there are moments that I like in 15 that are strong, right? I'm sure, Saf, we can get to the ending because I think that you feel really strongly about that. But, like, the camping and sort of, like, when I was, like, exploring around and stuff, I thought was enjoyable, right? The driving is very confusing because you can't go off-road for a lot of the game.
Yes.
So you're very much,
I do not like the open world.
Yeah.
The open world I was fine with. I liked exploring it, but
it's largely empty. And there are a lot of, like, gated walls that are, like, you can't, like, climb over. So you just have to go around them. They're so boring. Like, it's so bad. I don't understand. like, all right, the game's open world for, like, the first 8 chapters, and then, like, I think chapter 9, it becomes linear.
Yeah,
and I was, like, kind of glad for the linear part to start, because I was just so tired of the open world.
Because I had so I played, like, fucking Xenoblade X. Like, that was, like, announced and released kind of near the same time as, like, Xenoblade X. And
wow, really?
Yeah, like,
I think it was like a year apart.
Crazy.
It's like a year apart or something. But, like, I played Xenoblade X for such a long time. Like,
I'm gonna say, for Saf, that's basically a week after the game came out.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was literally like playing Final Fantasy 15 after X. It was just so restricting and just so dull and boring, and it was just so stupid, just trying to explore this game and not get anything from it in terms of, like, exploration or in terms of, like, freedom. And so that's part of the reason why I stopped for quite a bit and then jumped back in after a few months. And even after that few time had passed, it was still boring. Like, when I travel through, like, I can just put my car on auto cruise, travel to a different area, and watch, like, 10-minute YouTube videos at the same time because there's nothing else you can fucking do. It was just absolutely insane.
You can listen to some Final Fantasy music.
That's true.
That is true.
Put on that Final Fantasy 13 battle theme. I was just like, the whole way through.
That's the song you went for?
Yeah, what a tune. Yeah, so I don't know. That's
But I do agree.
Okay, let me just say some of the good things. The game is very pretty. Like, my god, like the summons are amazing. They look incredible. There are a lot of very, very cool looking segments. Not cool playing because they don't play well, but they look good.
And I was super invested in the brothers, in the four boys relationships. Like
I wish I could have been.
Campsites played quite a bit in like making me feel happy about chilling with them.
Well, here's the thing about the campsites. They disincentivize you from using those fucking campsites because you do not get the experience bonus that you do.
You gotta go to the camper to get the double.
Inn.
Yeah.
If you go to the most expensive inn, you get 3 times experience. If you get a campsite, you get nothing.
That was honestly my favorite part of the video game. Was I went for weeks without camping, so I had so much experience that I went from level 5 to level 60. By chapter 3, that was like, and I was like, because I used the multiplier. I was like, yes, good.
I had the ring. Like I think they gave it as part of the game, like as part of an update. So I put on the ring that just kind of like stops you from leveling up at campsites. So I just stocked up on a lot of fucking I stocked up on a lot of fucking experience points and just went to an inn and just fucking cashed in.
That's stupid. That's stupid. Oh my god, that's so dumb. Yeah, also those campsite things, they only happen at specific campsites. Like you can't just camp at a regular place and hope to see one of those sites.
Through. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or one of those moments. God, it's so annoying.
I do think that their ambient dialogue between each other's pretty good, right? Like
for the beginning.
Sure.
I got bored of it.
Sure, yeah. I guess like, a lot of the stuff I sort of chalk up to like, if you see it 100 times, it's always gonna get boring, right? But one thing I feel like that was the thing that like, if they had just targeted on that, I think it would have been the strongest story that they had in the game. Like without having to rewrite everything, they just loaded a whole lot on top of it.
Yes.
So
I mean, if also they actually spent time in going through these characters' backstories instead of like alluding to like, oh, Prompto has this dark backstory that he's secretly this thing that like is never hinted at until you fucking get to that point in the game, which is like a really big deal. But no, you move on like 5 minutes later, and who cares?
Yeah,
it's so like there's so many pieces of the story that are not explained. It is maddening. It makes no sense, and I fucking hate it. Because there's a lot of potential, and the potential is kind of hinted at, or given more life at the ending. Like they don't deserve the ending that they give. Like it's way unearned. It's a good ending, but it's super unearned because they never brought you to that conclusion.
Sure.
But I personally loved the ending a lot. Like it really,
it's a good ending.
It's very well directed. Like I've really, really enjoyed how well they've done it. But again, it's as you say, like there's so much in the way of opportunities that they've missed out on that could have made it like feel more resonant with a lot of people. And it's like partly because like this game is just a mess. Like this game is through and through a mess. Like it's just so, it's like you can tell by the development of it, like how fucking messy it was, and the fact that they've put out different types of media to just kind of
there was also the anime. There was
anime, video games, fucking mobile game and shit like that, just so that they can kind of build up your knowledge and of the lore and the world itself, so that it makes this thing easier to swallow. When in reality, it just makes it more convoluted and complex when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, it is a. I mean, it's a great historical oddity, right? Like following it because like they kept the characters' faces but not the names and like some of the songs and like like there's so much of it that like it was originally going to be 3 games and they turned it into 1 game. Like there's just so much to it, and sometimes that all happens and you don't feel it when you play it, but you do feel it in 15's case. Like you can feel where there's this patchwork of different elements that they're sort of being stitched together to be able to finally put a game out.
Oh yeah.
All right, we went a while on that. Saf, where do you want to put it?
Oh god, I wish you didn't ask me. It's so hard to pick a place for it.
Well, you're the one that decided to put us in this situation.
I know. I thought we would have us spend quite a while talking about it, and I had enough time to be able to think of where I want it. But
We went for 15 minutes.
How about somewhere around Ultimate Alliance 156 or lower?
156, Ultimate Alliance 3.
Yeah.
Well, we're in a section for the club where I haven't played a lot of these games.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ills, I guess, what are your thoughts on the stuff surrounding it?
Put it in hell.
I want to put it in hell.
You want to put it in hell?
No, I wanted to put at least below Bulletstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Because Marvel is going to be my hard ceiling. Because like Marvel itself is kind of like I'm playing it again for for fourth time now, or I can't even remember how many times I played it. I've played with so many different types of people, and it's still quite an empty mess as well. Ultimate 3, but even below Bullets,
I'm going to move it down some in this conversation, if that's okay, Saf.
Go on.
Ills, how do you feel about it in comparison to Metal Wolf Chaos?
Oh man. Oh.
Oh wait, I forgot you played this fucking game. Where the fuck is that game?
It's the one where you play as the President of the United States.
No, sorry. Where is it?
184.
It's the president of this great United States. Get it?
Because I think that We Fit is better than FF15. I think that Crash Bandicoot is.
Rough. Oh man. Like Metal Wolf Chaos has some issues.
Yeah.
Like it does not explain its combat system. It is fucking batshit, but it's funny. Like that's the one good thing it has.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't even know. I think I'm willing to put it there, I guess.
Above or below it?
Below? Above? I don't know. You pick.
Above. Just for the ending, for Saf.
Just for me, just for the ending. I can't say this enough. I really, really enjoyed the ending of that game. I can't say
it's a good ending. I'm not hating you on that. It's really good, but they didn't earn that shit.
Yeah.
They didn't earn that shit at all.
Yeah. But there it is. Well, that's a little bit of a bummer to see a Final Fantasy game, but I guess 2 spots above it's a Mario game, so it happened. So there it is at 184 on the list. Final Fantasy 15 surrounding it. At 182, New Super Mario Bros. 2. 183, Wii Fit. 184, Final Fantasy 15. 185, Metal Wolf Chaos. 186, Pokemon Trading Card Game 2, The Invasion of Team GR. Whew. That is the list. That is the podcast for this week. I want to thank you all for listening. Who wants to do plugs? Who wants to do outro?
Does Brandon want to
do one of them? I'll do one of them. I haven't talked in like 20 minutes.
Brandon's awake, everyone.
He woke up from his nap.
Yeah, you didn't let me know you were done. You didn't wake me up.
Well.
Does Brandon want to do the outro then? Because he deserves a time to talk.
Why the fuck not?
Alright, so you're gonna do plug stuff?
I don't even know what we plug in.
Alright, then I'll plug. Alright. If you enjoyed this podcast, we want to thank you once again for listening. You can make sure that you'll see the podcast when they go live every Monday, when we do what you've just heard, where we talk about the news, talk about the list. Every other Thursday, we do the Jump Up Supercast Game Club, where we talk about Brandon, Noah, and Ills go in depth on whatever game they've been playing. They just finished Mega Man X Command Mission, excuse me. That's a game that's just a real weird piece of history for a story video game franchise. So listen to that conversation. You can make sure, of course, to make sure you don't miss when things go live. Also following us on Twitter at twitter.com/jumpupsupercast, as well as on Facebook at facebook.com/jumpupsupercast. And if you like to listen on YouTube, we also upload to YouTube the episodes that go live on the podcast feeds. In addition, we have a Twitch wherein we stream. Sometimes Brandon streams semi-regularly. Moves the Mill is supposed to be playing 2 Mario games a month. They haven't touched Sunshine or Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels, but those are the next 2 games they are playing. I think both of them will have plenty of Schadenfreude to enjoy if you watch them live at twitch.tv/jumpupsupercast. Anything else that needs to get plugged?
Patreon.
Patreon.com/jumpupsupercast, where if you want to drop us a couple of bucks a month, you can have a voice in determining what game Brandon, Ills, and Noah will play once every go-round for the list. So basically, once every 2 months, you put your name in a raffle, and if your game gets picked, they have to play it as long as it's under 25 hours. So, why not help us
Jet Force Gemini right now.
Right now, because of the raffle. Jet Force Gemini. We'll see whether or not that was a good thing or not when they talk about it. But
I like it.
Brandon, your final phrase.
My final phrase is, I've been thinking about, what I was thinking about while you guys were talking about Final Fantasy?
What were you thinking about?
How there's a lot of fucking Final Fantasy games. And, I've only played through one of them ever, Final Fantasy VII, which I played through earlier this year.
Oh my God.
I'm going to be playing through Final Fantasy IV pretty soon. But, it was weird. Final Fantasy VII, as a game, has so many fucking spin-offs. What the fuck is going on there? It's just wild. I know there's people who love Final Fantasy VII, but, there was, Crisis Core, and there's movies.
Before Crisis, Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus.
There's the fucking one where you play as Vincent Valentine. What the fuck, man? Final Fantasy VII is wild. So that's all I gotta say, man. Final Fantasy, what the fuck?